All right, is everyone ready?
But I was like, no.
All right, let's go ahead and get started. I'll call the meeting to order. This is the October meeting of the Central Pines Regional Council Board of Delegates. I want to thank everyone for being here in person. It is a beautiful facility. First time I've had a chance to be here. It's very nice. Very better than nice. It's beautiful. Now I'm watching the technology here work. And I also want to thank those who are joining us on the live stream. Thank you all for being here. And I do want to just remind everybody, since this is a live stream, that when you speak, if you would please identify yourself so that the folks watching on live stream will know who you are and who you represent. And finally, since this is a hybrid meeting, that both in person and live stream, we will conduct all votes with a roll call vote. And so those are the reminders. And I will now ask Elena to conduct the roll call, see who's present. Thank you.
So as a reminder to everyone, I'll say the community name and both delegate and alternate can indicate if they're here. Aberdeen.
Aberdeen present.
Thank you. Danger.
Answer, Mayor Bob Smith.
Thank you. Apex.
Apex, Brett Gant, here.
Thank you. Archer Lodge. Thank you. Benson. Broadway.
Thomas Beal, Broadway.
Thank you. Cameron. Carborough.
Randy Haven O'Donnell, Carborough present.
Thank you. Carthage. Carrie.
Jennifer Robinson present.
Chapel Hill. Chatham County. Clayton. City of Durham. Durham County. Fuquay-Varina. Garner.
Ken Marshburn here.
Oldston. Hillsborough. Holly Springs.
Holly Springs, Tim Forrest here.
Thank you. Johnson County.
Butch Lauder here.
Henley. Nightdale. Lee County.
Lee County, Bill Carver present.
Micro. Moore County. Morrisville.
Steve Rao present.
Orange County.
Gene Hamilton present.
Pine Level. Pinehurst. Pittsburgh.
Pamela Baldwin, Town of Pittsburgh present.
Princeton.
Dawn Rains, Town of Princeton, present.
Raleigh. Robbins. Molesville. Sanford.
Rebecca Salmon, City of Sanford present.
Thank you. Selma. Tyler City.
Bill Haggis, Town of Siler City present.
Smithfield. Southern Pines. Bass. Wake County.
Susan Evans, Wake County, present.
Wake Forest.
Dan Siri, Wake Forest present.
Wendell. Whispering Pines.
Linda Vandercook for Whispering Pines, present.
Thank you. Wilson's Mills. And Zebulon. And we have a quorum. Yes.
All right, thank you. Since we do have a quorum, we will move on to the next item on the agenda, which is a review of the agenda. Is there any items that anyone needs to add or move on the agenda? All right, if not, I will approve the agenda. And next up is presentations and recognitions. And I do not see Deidreana here, so I will just say a few words and then we'll make sure she receives her stuff. First, I want to thank her for her service. I had an opportunity, I guess I've served with her on this board. I had an opportunity to meet and spend a week with Deidreana at the UNC School of Government's Advanced Leadership Course, which I highly recommend. If you haven't been, I recommend that to you. And I learned about the passion that she has in pretty much everything she does. And I think that she brought that as chairman of this board. And I do want to thank her for her service and for that passion that she shared with me and I think with all of you. So when we see her, we'll make sure she receives her award. Is there anyone else who wishes to say anything?
I've served on the board with her as in my capacity as past chairman, and I concur. She was always forward thinking and passionate about our organization growing and passionate about Lee.
Very supportive chair.
Yes.
Wanted to make sure I was taking appropriate time off. She'd remind me. I did appreciate that very much.
All right, anyone else?
Well, I would just say, Butch, yeah, I served with her as, I guess, treasurer of the board before I stepped aside, but I found her to be, cooperative and a good person to work with, and I wish her all the best. Thank you.
Anyone else?
I'd just like to make a small comment that I did as past chair. I did serve with her as well, and she was a great chair and was one of those who nominated her to be chair. So I do appreciate her leadership, and it was great. Thank you.
It just dawned on me, we probably need to recognize, say so you are for the folks on live stream so they'll know. Sorry about that. And y'all may need to remind me of that as well. So we'll move on to the next recognition, which is recognizing Mark Wilson, council member in Archer Lodge, longtime council member in Archer Lodge. Had the pleasure of serving in the one town over from him. I think Archer Lodge was it 2009. Yes. When Archer Lodge was formed, in 2011-ish, when Mr. Wilson came on there. So we had a chance to work together and close by. I do want to put the rest of the rumor that Archer Lodge formed so they wouldn't be part of Clayton. I don't think that would be very true. But I do want to thank Mr. Wilson for his service, not only to Archer Lodge and even to Johnston County, but to Triangle J and now Central Pines. And thank you for your many years working with us. And then I mentioned passion for Deidreana. And then when I think of Mr. Wilson, I think of service. It's unconditional, you get kind of unconditional love and unconditional service. He stepped in and did whatever he needed to do, whether that's Archer Lodge or serving on this board. And Mark, I want to thank you for that. And I'll open it up before I carry all this stuff over to him and show him what our appreciation in a physical way. But is anyone else who wishes to speak or have anything to say?
There she is.
Apparently outside.
Right here. In the open spot.
I was gonna say there's a seat down here too.
I'll take the floor. Don Raines from Princeton, which is also in Johnston County. And Mark is a neighboring town, Archer's Lodge, very close to Clayton. But I really know him from Triangle J, Central Pines. He was a great officer with me and very, I'm more macro, he's more micro. So I just remember us updating the personnel policy and We went, it was, he did a great job micromanaging, making sure everybody's task was done correctly. And that's Mark because he's detail oriented.
Anyone else?
Yes,
Yes.
I wouldn't miss this for anything. Okay, I'm gonna get emotional, Mark, so I can't help it. I have so appreciated serving with you. Mark has given us his gifts. We've heard about the detail oriented. We've heard about his service. You always have brought forth the veterans, and the memories of those who've served and represented them well. As a former wife in military, I am indebted for you and your family and your service. You always have brought for us the gift of your poetry. Every one of those meetings, just every time you read and wrote something specifically for those occasions, I carry in my heart and we all carry in our hearts. You have served your community so well, the state so well. And I was honored to serve with you as an officer, and I am so very grateful to see you here today. And thank you for all that you have done in your service.
Anyone else?
I'd just like to speak on behalf of the staff and myself, Mr. Wilson, how much we appreciate. I think the word service is really appropriate for what you've given of yourself to your community and to the region and to this organization. I'm really proud to have worked for you and for you to have given your wisdom and the ability that you have for caring for people really comes across. You were very passionate and very caring about the staff here. And that was very evident. You appreciated them. You advocated for them. And then also in your community, I still remember how proud you are of the Veterans Memorial and Park next to Town Hall. And you would passionately talk about it as it was under construction and had me come by to take a look at it. And it was really wonderful. And every time I pass by there, I look at that and think about you. And we're just so appreciative of your service to this organization. I know this on behalf of the staff. Thank you very much.
How about a round of applause?
Yeah, so we have the mayor and town administrator here. So Mr. Mahomes, anything you'd like to say, or Brian, either one?
Matt Mulhall. I concur with all of those remarks. Service definitely comes to mind as Councilman Wilson's served his country, his community, his town, and this board. And we really do appreciate it and are very proud of his service and the example that he sets.
All right, thank you. All right, Mark, in appreciation for your service to this board, both as an officer and a board member, we have these mementos to give you. I'll set them down here. This one's bulky. Here, hold on. We're gonna get a picture. Hang on one second. We got a photo op.
She's gonna get a picture.
Yeah. So hold on. Do I need to kneel or stand up again?
I can get you.
Okay. All right. All right, thank you.
Piece of pine.
Yeah, this is Central Pines, and you have a dual plaque. This one is Triangle J Council of Government. So sit that back down.
That's his service plaque when he resigned from the board and we were still Triangle J.
Oh, there we go. And then also a card.
Thank you so
And
much.
thank you. Thank you again. Yeah, is there anything you'd like to say?
Is there anything I'd like to say? I don't think you have enough time. Kathleen, you'll be not so happy to hear that I left my poem at home. But I'm going to sing before I'm done, so
Okay.
that'll have to do. I've enjoyed myself here so much. I had said early on that I felt lost, that with all the other big towns, cities, counties, that Archer Lodge was among them. And I somehow felt at that time that maybe I shouldn't be here. I was soon made aware that I must be here. There's work that goes on here that's important to all the citizens in the region, all the citizens of each individual town and county. And I have been honored to serve with each and every one of you. And I appreciate your thoughts, your good words. Thank you. I am here to say goodbye, and I shall always remember you. In my heart, I know this was right, and you each perform functions that are important. So I would urge that you continue to do the job that I'm no longer going to do. But I will always remember you. And now it's time to say goodbye.
Thank you, Mark. The next item, and this is going to be hard to follow now. So I'll pass it off quick. Employee introduction, and I want to ask Jenny Halsey to introduce the employees for us.
Definitely don't want to follow.
You can start with a song.
You don't want me to. Good evening, everybody. We have 3 staff members that we would like to introduce this evening that have started in probably the last, well, I know at least 2 of them last month. Melissa's been here a little longer. So I'm sorry for Patty to have to follow. But with that, we'd like to, I'd like Emily to quickly introduce Patty Berry.
Yeah, so we searched for a long time to find a senior water resource planner who could take the role, the very important role of many of our legacy water resource programs and projects. And we're so excited to have Patty Berry here tonight to tell us a little bit about herself. So I'll turn it over to you.
Hi. So that's very difficult to follow. I'm actually teary-eyed right now. That was beautiful. Thank you. I have been a wetland biologist and permitting specialist for over 15 years. I studied water and soil science, concentration in water resources. This job could not be any more up my alley than what it is. I have over 10 years of experience in municipal government. I fell in love with being a public servant. My first mayor and city council that I worked for, I was their energy and environment officer. And there I played many hats. I also was the conservation director for a couple additional towns. And, you know, when you work municipal government, you end up having many different responsibilities. Sometimes my skill set is very diverse, and I could be a climate action coordinator. I could be a hazmat, contaminated site. I can be a water resource planner. I have a lot of wealth of experience to bring to the table. I've been working for 6 weeks now, and I will tell you, I absolutely love the position. So thank you for the opportunity. And if you, the next slide. So a couple things about me. I actually met Emily. I was vice chair and a member of the Town of Cary's Environmental Advisory Board, where we actually had taken a look at the Jordan Lake rules. And now I get to work with that board and Lori Bush and the Jordan Lake One Water, the coalition. So it's kind of cool how I get a whole aspect. And that's actually my passion, is the protection of water resources and the water quality for our generation, those generations to follow. This is just a little picture of me when I was on the Environmental Advisory Board, because I love all environmental things. And when I had moved here, our recycling bins were too small. And so we got more than half our neighborhood to get our recycle bins larger. So that's it. Just thank you very much. And I can't say it enough. That was absolutely beautiful song. So thank you.
All right, next up we have Katie Davis, and I think, Hope, are you online?
I am.
Okay, Hope Talley will introduce her. Hope is our CFO.
Hi, everybody. We are super excited in the finance office to have Katie Davis join us. She's got several years of experience in local government finance, and she brings a lot of fun to our team, and we've just enjoyed having her so far. So I'll hand it over to her.
Okay, thanks, Hope. My name is Katie Davis, and like Hope said, I'm the finance manager. My background is pretty simple. It's accounting. And most recently, I was the assistant finance officer with Chatham County. Was there 7 years, and prior to that, I worked for a not-for-profit. I am also a certified North Carolina local government finance officer and a member of the NCGFO. Now the fun page. My husband, Chris, and I have 4 beautiful children, Paisley, Kinley, Layla, and Liam. We have a small farm with some cows and chickens that keep us very busy, along with our kids that keep us very busy. They pretty much consume our life, and we wouldn't have it any other way. I'm excited to join the team, and so far it has been really great. So thanks for having me.
She really has spiced up the finance team, so it's good. All right, and lastly, we have Melissa Lau here with us tonight, and I will give it to Lindsay Whitson, her supervisor.
Yeah, hi, I'm Lindsay Whitson. Melissa's been with us a little over 2 months now, and I just want to say her position is very unique and new to the Central Pines. Sorry, and she'll tell you a little bit more about her position and her background and everything, but also just really admire that she's building this position from the ground up here and in the county that she serves. So I'll let her speak on herself.
I am Melissa Lowell. I'm a certified peer support specialist, phlebotomist, and certified life coach. And I have been working very hard to help the unsheltered people of Chatham County to get the resources that they need to direct them to social services, and basically, as Lindsay said, to kind of build a position to enhance the service opportunities for the people of Chatham County. And I have many hobbies that kind of span from the coast of North Carolina to the mountains. I enjoy rock climbing, art and music, beaches, hiking, and I have an adorable 4-ounce tortoise and a very spirited cat. And I also facilitate therapeutic art support groups for the mental health community, generally once a week. So I do apologize. It's just having a little allergy season, plus I got very choked up. And I do thank you too, Lawrence.
I did want to add that as I've said through many introductions, and it seems we've had words of the evening for service and passion in addition to the technical skills. And it seems that every new employee introduction, that theme is kind of there. So welcome to each of you, Melissa, Patty, and Katie. Welcome, and we expect big things from each of you. All right, next up on to the business items. The first business item is US EPA Climate Pollution Reduction Grant. And I'm going to ask Emily Parent to present that item to us.
This one's ready to go. Hey guys, I'm Emily Barrett. I'm the Environment and Resilience Director here at Central Pines Regional Council, and I'm lucky enough to be Patty's supervisor. And tonight I wanted to orient you to a new opportunity that we have. It's called the Climate Pollution Reduction Grant, CPRG. This is a two-phase grant. Our first phase is doing the plan. And the plan will open the door for the next phase, which is a competitive opportunity. So I wanted to just show you a little bit. So our metro area was eligible for this. The Raleigh-Cary metro area triggered our eligibility, and we applied and said, the Raleigh-Cary MSA really wouldn't be what it is without the Durham-Chapel Hill MSA, and vice versa. So we'd like to do the 8-county region instead of just the smaller region. And our logic was we have a unified region and we should plan as such. So our first deliverable is called the Priority Climate Action Plan. And that's the big bucket plan that says where are emissions coming from, greenhouse gas or climate warming emissions coming from in our area. The grant that is competitive drops soon after that, and we are planning on applying for it. In fact, we have a staffer who's volunteered to take the lead on that. Tara Natras here with us tonight. And we also have another deliverable in the fall of 2025, which is the Comprehensive Climate Action Plan. And that's a much more detailed look at how we plan to reduce our climate warming emissions in our area. And then a status report in fall of 2027. So we're going to use a kind of software called ClearPath to calculate the emissions in our area. But if you want to know what any city's emissions look like, it's pretty much this. This is Raleigh's, but pretty much Cary's would be the same as this, and Durham, etc. So it's kind of like a math problem where we already know the answer, but we still have to do it. And we'll be using that software. And then everybody wants to know, well, that's great, you're doing this math problem, but you know, why do I care? And a lot of people care because they want to win that implementation grant. And the implementation grant is a $4.6 billion opportunity to bring funding into our area for the clean energy transition. So how do we win it, they say? And I say it's about math and justice. Math is about, can we prove that our plan reduces those emissions by a lot? And can we also show that we're taking care of traditionally marginalized folks in our area in ways that help them? So Priority Climate Action Plan, as I said, it's a big bucket plan. It has greenhouse gas inventory in it. And here's the categories that we anticipate: transportation, buildings, waste, industry, and electric power are two other buckets, but local governments don't have a lot of agency in those. We also have agriculture and natural working lands. And I put some examples of what that agriculture is because it's pretty neat. There's some options that a lot of people don't think of when they think of climate. There's building soil health, there's land preservation, tree planting the trees so they mature and suck up the carbon. And there's nature-based solutions, which many of you know includes stormwater, green infrastructure. Some key considerations that we have when we're looking at tactics for reducing greenhouse gas emissions is local authority to implement is limited by Dillon's rule. And be happy to talk more about that with you guys. But one recent example is at the state level, there were some folks trying to work to make buildings more efficient, and the state delayed that decision for a number of years. So that's one tactic that we don't have to choose here in North Carolina. Another key consideration is local governments frequently have more ability to implement and more citizen excitement about stormwater, land use, nature-based solutions, and waste. And I don't know if you remember, see if I can go back. Guess I can't go back. But you remember the pie? And that teeny slice was waste. That's a challenge because many communities have very excited and engaged citizenry around waste. We really think there's great opportunity in rural-urban partnerships. That 8-county region, if you remember the map, represents some of our most urban communities and some more rural communities. And job creation is a key objective, the co-benefits of that. And other questions we'll be asking is who pays and who benefits? Maybe the battery just gave out. Thank you. So the implementation grant, which is the phase 2, the tactics that are in our competitive grant have to be in that big bucket plan. So it's sort of a gateway to entry. The application can include multiple measures across one or more sectors. So I'm envisioning it being a package that we work together through an 8-county region to address multiple interests. And the coalition approach to an application would require MOAs passed by each partner. And you guys know that anytime multiple jurisdictions have to approve things, it does take quite a bit of coordination. So if you would like to think a little more about climate and how climate might impact your future, your children's future, and maybe your grandchildren's future, here's a couple of resources. There's a book called Project Drawdown, and they have an excellent website that I believe Beth has linked in their backup materials. It has the Project Drawdown outlines how we can address climate change with things that we do today. Many times when you hear about climate change, people talk about, well, in the future, when? And the premise of this book is that we actually have the solutions today. We just need to do them. The next link is, this is a reference to Project Drawdown. It's a regeneration cascade of solutions. So it's a very beautifully laid out graphic representation of different climate tactics, like electrifying buildings. So this is me, Emily Barrett, and Shuchi Gupta is another of our staffers who's taking a lead on this. One thing that I should mention is that we're focusing really heavily on Justice 40 communities and outreach, doing outreach in a way that really sincerely tries to get input from everyone in this 8-county region. It's also important to mention that we have wonderful partners in NC State, the Clean Energy Technology Center, as well as UNC. It's like we support all the colors of blue. We also have UNC's Department of City and Regional Planning that's partnering with us. So we're really happy to orient you to this and plan to come back and do updates. And if you have any questions, I'm here for you.
Yeah. Emily, thank you for your leadership. And I would add that in the rural areas, speaking of Johnston County, but I'm sure Chatham County and Harnett County as well, land conservatories is something that really needs to be done. And obviously that will protect the environment because that land will not be developed, and it will keep forestry and farming active, and hopefully that's a good environmental choice.
I'm really glad you brought that up. Great point.
Are you imagining that the partners that would do the MOAs would be both municipalities and counties?
Yes.
Okay, and the second one is, I guess I'm getting to that, this kind of similar thing is it gonna be very competitive, I assume? And
It will be competitive.
and-
However, 4.6 billion is a lot.
it does go pretty far, yeah. I'm just thinking about, I guess there'll be a lot of care when we're writing like this grant about what makes this triangle area unique. And because everybody's gonna, I assume, do very similar grants across the United States because everybody's pie is probably very similar to ours. So it's something related to what he said, the urban rural and the conservative. I just feel like that might set us apart from like New York City or somewhere that would have less of that kind of thing going on.
Oh, yeah, definitely. That's a great point. And I do think they haven't stated this, but I think to your point, they are going to be looking to have some diversity in the kinds of applications that they approve. So I think they would like a big metro area in the Southeast to really demonstrate leadership. The other thing that is important to think about when you're dreaming about the future, which I can tell several of you already are, see the wheels turning, is that EPA emphasized systems change and innovation. So really not being afraid to think big. And in my mind, you can think big on a small scale first, and then talk about how you might implement bigger later. So you don't have to put all your eggs in one basket, I guess. Anybody else? I'm so pleased to be with you. Yes.
Yeah, Jeannie Hamilton with Orange County. I think we are finalizing our climate action plan.
I heard.
Yes. So just wondering how you coordinate with the climate action plans and the counties and municipalities that exist.
We have a graduate student with the City of Regional Planning collating all of the plans right now. I asked for a preview copy of your plan. I hope you don't mind. And what she's doing is pretty neat because she is looking at the buckets like transportation, buildings, etc. And she's looking for commonalities. And she's also documenting which ones are official plans, like what yours will be, as well as those that are programs, because many communities do not have official plans, but they're implementing. So you'll be able to take a scan of that document and see where the commonalities are, which is kind of neat when we're talking about putting the package together. Thank you for that. And congratulations. I know that was a lot of work.
And Heidi Carter online has a question.
Okay.
Yes, thank you. I just think this is incredibly exciting. I read about it in the newsletter, the Needler newsletter. Was happy about it. My question is about whether or not the tactics need to focus on government, its greenhouse emissions solely, or is it more community-wide? If it is government only, does it include the school system and school buildings, for example?
Oh, yeah. So I've spoken to the City of Durham's Environmental Affairs Board, and I have at least one member who's very passionate about the school system. It can include both municipal and county emissions, but also residential and commercial emissions as well. But there are programs like the Solarize the Triangle that can take the power of government to incentivize personal action. So in the case of Solarize the Triangle, it brought down the price and reduced the risk of investing in solar for both residents and businesses. And so thinking about those ways that we as government can change the market and incentivize people. We're looking at a program right now about heat pumps, for example. So that's a great question. And if you have ideas, feel free to email me. I'd be delighted to hear from you.
Okay, great. Well, thanks so much for spearheading this effort for us.
Happy to do it. It's a dream come true. Thank y'all.
All right. Thank you. The next item is federal government affairs update, and I will ask Elena Keegan to speak. Give that presentation after 5 minutes.
So I'm happy to introduce Leslie Mazingo, who's here with us tonight. Leslie works for Strategics, or owns Strategics Consulting, who's been our government affairs partner for several years now. And we know there is a lot going on at the federal government, as always. And so we've asked Leslie just to come and provide an update and answer any questions you might have about what's happening at the federal government.
Thanks, Elena. Nice to see you all. A lot of times when I presented, I'm on the screen, so it's nice to be in front of you for a change and an opportunity to see this gorgeous, gorgeous space. So congratulations to Central Pines for all these new developments. And again, my name is Leslie Mazingo. I'm the owner and CEO of Strategics Consulting. We're a federal lobbying firm, a bit unique in the sense that we're based in Washington, D.C. and also have an office in North Carolina. So I always kind of joke with people and say, I'm kind of a rarity. I'm a North Carolina-based Washington lobbyist, if that makes any sense. But we have had the pleasure of providing our services to Central Pines for a number of years, formerly known as Triangle J. We had to change the Lobbying Disclosure Act report to say formerly known as. And that's been a real pleasure working for this region. We've certainly enjoyed it. Overall, I've got 30 plus years experience in this. We do basically everything related to the federal government. I have with me my colleague, Kyle Leopard, who also actually works in this state. We have another colleague that was with us today. We sent him home because he had to drive back to DC. Named Ryan Murphy, and Ryan was here to do a clean energy tax credit webinar today. And which went really well. We were really happy to have the opportunity to present that. Kyle also works on the climate pollution reduction that we were just talking about, as well as transportation, energy efficiency, renewable, and I don't know, a whole bunch of other things. Basically, anything I give him, he does it, which is great. So and he is team leader for Central Pines. So he's here if anybody should have any questions for him as well. One of the things I also want to mention in terms of services when I talk about lobbying, everybody thinks mostly DC, but one of the big parts, and I know it's something that you all have been growing, that we also provide is grant services. And a large part of that is a weekly grants alert that does go on your website. And then also helping folks with project readiness and understanding how grants work in general within Washington, and then advocating on behalf of those grants. So I did want to mention that because that's really been ramped up, and you guys are doing a terrific job with that, as we've just heard. And so we're real pleased to be able to be part of that. So first on the list after who we are and what we do is the status of elected speaker. And I am happy to announce, ladies and gentlemen, we have a speaker. It only took 22 days, but we have a speaker. And so that just, in fact, just to kind of show you, I prepared my remarks last night. I ended up taking page 3 and basically drawing a line through all of that because it changed while we were in the presentation today for the energy tax credit webinar. But so as you all know, North Carolina had a moment there with our very own Patrick McHenry as acting speaker. So that was something new and different that we haven't had before. But now we have an official speaker. His name is Mike Johnson. He is from the state of Louisiana. That makes actually the top 2 spots in the House, both from the Bayou State. So you've got the speaker now, and then Mr. Johnson, and then now behind him, who will keep his position as majority leader, is Steve Scalise, who also ran for speaker but wasn't able to get the votes. This was the 4th nominee. As many of you know, we had after Kevin McCarthy was removed through a motion to vacate the chair, we had Steve Scalise, we had Jim Jordan. We actually had a gentleman yesterday, Emmers, who won the nomination but withdrew within an hour after winning the nomination. And then this gentleman, that's kind of an unknown to a lot of folks, put his name in the ring about 20 hours before the vote and ended up winning it with not only the 217, that's the magic number everybody's been talking about, but he did get all 220 votes of the Republicans that were there. As you know, Republican majority is 221, so that one vote was an absentee, was somebody who wasn't present. So he got unanimous votes. And then, of course, on the other side of the aisle, Mr. Jeffries, the minority leader, ended up getting all of those votes. So it was a split down party lines. And but we have a speaker, and that's the best part about the day. And so let's see what else I want to tell you. Oh, so some of the things that he's already spoken to or spoken about is well, the first order of business on the floor after the House could go back into business once the speaker was elected was a resolution in support of Israel. So that was the very first thing that they did on the floor today after they were able to open business back up. And then he gave, he also gave some remarks today that indicated some of the things that he wants to work on. And specifically, he talked a lot about looking at budget deficits and how to address those coming up through the appropriation bills, and that he's actually going to appoint a deficit committee, a commission, if you will, to study how we can reduce government spending. So that's going to be a big deal. I'm going to talk about that again in just a moment when I cover appropriations. Some of the things, though, that I want you to, to keep in mind, even though we got such a strong vote for speaker, a couple of things to be watching for. First of all, the group of individuals who came together to support the motion to vacate overall, and that ousted Kevin McCarthy, are still there, and they're still going to be pressuring anybody who got speaker is going to get that kind of pressure under the same rules. A lot of it has to do with handling appropriation bills with regular order, and a number of other demands that they have. But what you may recall, in order for McCarthy to get speaker, is he agreed to a one-person ability to come in and offer the motion to vacate the chair, which most folks said that by McCarthy agreeing to that, he was going to be a short-term speaker. There was, it took, 15 or 16, I'm forgetting the number, Cal, you might remember, but well over a dozen votes to even get to that point. And he gave a lot of concessions in order to get the votes. And it ended up being the thing, that ended his speakership. That motion to vacate by one member is still in place. That still could be called. However, there is already, by Dan Crenshaw, Florida, he's already proposed a rule change that would say, and I think this is a good change, but it would say that even with a motion to vacate, that the chair will not be vacated until a new speaker is elected. And what that would allow things to progress in the House. Keep in mind, the Senate was still acting, committees could still act, they just couldn't take anything to the floor. So, that was still a big stop in terms of what they needed to move. But there was other business going on, but this would allow that would be kind of awkward. You're no longer speaker, but you're still acting as speaker if that should ever occur again. The other thing they want to do is raise the threshold so that it's not one member, but the latest proposal is talking about like maybe 25 members. So anyway, expect some changes. I think this has opened people's eyes to why this process didn't work well in this particular case, and there'll be some changes to do that. The other thing that because otherwise they're gonna hold the threat of removal over any speaker's head. But the other thing that you have to keep in mind too, that I think is really important. So one of the things that brought this on was that Kevin McCarthy worked with the Democrats in order to pass a continuing resolution to keep the government open beyond September 30th to avoid a government shutdown. That issue also has not gone away. You have November 17th is the deadline. Now, at the time that they passed the continuing resolution, they had 45 days. This 22-day stalemate cut into that. And so given the differences between the House and Senate bills and quite frankly, a lot of the differences between House Democrats and Republicans over the spending levels within the House bills, it's in my professional opinion, there is no way they're going to meet that November 17th deadline. So they're going to have to do another continuing resolution. You have the Freedom Caucus, a large group of the Freedom Caucus, who have vowed that they will vote against any spending. It was House Freedom Caucus. My watch always talks back to me because I speak so loud. And she was like, I didn't get that. Anyway, so my apologies for the interruption. Rude. But one of the things that got McCarthy in trouble, and besides not having regular order in appropriations, was that he reached out. He was not going to get the votes from his own conference in order to keep the continuing resolution to pass. and wanted to avoid a government shutdown. So he worked with Democrats to get the votes to pass the continuing resolution. That was at least what they put their hat on in terms of saying, that he reached across the aisle to get those votes. The problem with that going into November 17th and maybe whatever comes after that in terms of another CR is that you've got the Freedom Caucus has said that they will vote against any spending bill that doesn't include drastic cuts. And those bills with drastic cuts cannot pass the Senate. So again, you have someone that's in a very difficult position in terms of wanting to cut the budget, a group of folks that want to cut the budgets. But if you do those cuts, you will not get them through the Senate and you will be in the same predicament. Now, another thing that I was studying today when I found out that we had a speaker that concerns me a little bit is that another thing that happened as part of the deal in order to raise the debt ceiling, the Fiscal Responsibility Act, in order to be able to raise the debt ceiling, one of the things that they agreed to is that that they would pass a regular budget. That means all 12 appropriation bills separately. They would pass a budget, have it signed into law by regular order by the end of the year to keep CRs from going into the next fiscal year. So you have to do it by the end of the year, or there's an automatic 1% across the board cut in all spending. So a sequestration of sorts. Speaker Johnson, one of the things he said was also knowing that the November 17th deadline is not gonna work at this point, is he said that he's looking at doing another CR either to January 15 or April 15. Now, what I don't know yet is if that automatic budget cut comes in the early part of January and you have a CR to January 15th, how are they going to address that? Or maybe they want the budget cuts across, but I mean, those are some dates that you want to watch out for. The other interesting part of that is that he said that if it didn't go to, I thought I had that on silence. I'm sorry. Thank you. If it didn't go to January 15th, the next date would be April 15th. Well, the sequestration, the automatic across the board cuts that are coming in, they would become effective January 1st, but they would not be implemented until April 30th. So I thought that the pick of an April 15th deadline was kind of interesting. So they must be kind of maybe playing with that sequestration. And I wish I had more news for you on that. Maybe at a future report or in the newsletter or something, we'll follow up. But I wanted to point those dates out to you as well because they do make a difference. So moving on, we'll talk about congressional maps real quick. And obviously, this is another big piece of news that affects North Carolina, obviously specifically, but in terms of congressional seats. So I think, as most everybody knows, we have two maps that were proposed on October 19th that the state lawmakers released. And although the exact delineation between the different districts is a little bit less certain, I think, or at least not something I've been able to study very, very closely. What became very clear is that by the two maps, Republicans would have a majority by, right now we have an even 7-7 split between Democrats and Republicans in our congressional district seats. The way the two maps are drawn, it would be either a 10-4 or an 11-3. So you're looking to see, will Democrats lose 3 seats or will they lose 4 seats? What's particularly important for this region is the place where they put Wiley Nickel. He's going to be in danger, and also Valerie Fusci will end up at least under one of the maps. In one of the maps, she's in a Republican district, drawn district, and another map, she's actually put in a district, they call it double bunking, where she would have to run against Don Davis. And so therefore, by default, one of the current sitting Democrats would lose their seat. Kathy Manning is also under one map, either in a Republican district or in another map completely out. And Jeff Jackson is the other Democrat who said under either map, as far as he's concerned, he's done. He doesn't see any way to run in a Republican-led district, or he's completely mapped out. So that's going to have not only an implications. The reality is there's potentially 3, maybe 4 new members of Congress from North Carolina on the Republican side. But again, just an emphasis there that really changes this region quite a bit in terms of how these maps are drawn. What happens after that, I'm not a congressional map expert, but I think all of us probably believe that this isn't the last map that will be drawn, that we'll see more. But I'm assuming, based on the timing, that it's probably one of those maps is what's going to stick for the next election, is my assumption. Now, I'll be honest, there may be folks in this room that know more about that than I do in terms of how that works. But I did want to point out that there is a significant impact in terms of this region and how that might work. The other thing is, I think most people know too that there isn't a veto opportunity by the governor over those maps, so that's not something that can play in. Appropriations and continuing resolution, and I'm probably going over my time, so I'll try to speed it up here a little bit. One of the things I talked a moment ago about regular order. So one of the things that the previous speaker, McCarthy, had promised was that they would do, they have 12 appropriation bills that have to pass by September 30th, or they have to do the continuing resolution to keep the government funding, or to keep the government funded at the current levels, FY23 level. And what they were trying to do is get away from these continuing resolutions and the omnibus appropriation bills. And it's not uncommon at all, probably for more than a decade now. We've seen giant, massive omnibus bills come in, the day before Christmas, and they're voting on something that they probably haven't really had the opportunity to read. So they wanted to return to regular order. CRs, I'm not advocating for them, but just to point out that, they have become so common, again, not regular order, but they've become so common that, a couple of stats, we've had 132 continuing resolutions since 1998, which is an average of 5 per year. So they've been operating on this sort of, unusual process, what used to be considered an unusual process. They've been doing pretty regularly since, I said over a decade now, here in 1998, it reminds me just how old I am, that I do time fly by. So in any case, the position that they're in right now, like I said, we had November 17th, they gave them 45 days. They haven't been able to do that with the speaker debate. So they're going to have to go back to the drawing board. The biggest problem right now is that the difference between Senate appropriations and House appropriations, the 12 bills put together, is about $140 billion. So they have got to find a way to compromise over $140 billion in order to get one bill that can pass both the House and the Senate. So you can imagine what a heavy lift that is going to be. And as I mentioned, most likely ended up in another continuing resolution. One of the biggest places of the differences between the Senate version and the House version, you have, in some cases you have increases in defense and military construction. But what affects a lot of local governments in particular is that the Senate version, the biggest difference is in the labor, health and human services and education bill. So there'll be a lot of debate over that. Excuse me. The other thing that I wanted to mention very quickly is there are some differences for those of you who have sought it's community project funding or congressionally directed spending, depending on whether you're talking about House or Senate. I just call them earmarks, okay? I don't think it's a dirty word. It's been, used for years, but in any case, they changed the name. House calls it one thing, Senate calls another. But there are the other thing they're going to have to work through in that regard, knowing a lot of folks probably secured those, is that there are categories within the Senate bill that allow earmarks that were not allowed in the House. So you've got entire bills that have major differences there that have to be worked out. So the thing that folks are going to have to keep an eye on. Excuse me. The bottom line is from these additional increases is CRs, differences in appropriations, and then you're going to have another issue eventually on debt limit bill and the soaring budget deficits. And so one of the things that I wanted to tell you is, you're going to see these appropriation bills make it through one way or another. But not only in this round, but certainly going forward, I would implore you to really take a look at your budgets and look at the federal dollars that are being spent. The days of the $1 trillion bills are over. You are going to see everybody going in for budget cuts. It's going to be the biggest part of the debate. And when I would encourage you to be looking at what federal funding you rely upon and how it affects your constituencies, and to weave that into your talking points when you're talking with your members of Congress. And I would start that now. I wouldn't wait for the budget cuts to come. I would go ahead and tell them, hey, we know you guys are going to be looking at this. These are programs we have to have. They're critical to our constituency. We rely upon them, and let them know what's going to happen if those programs are reduced or eliminated. Because that time, many of you will remember many years where we didn't go to Washington asking for money as much as we went to Washington asking them not to take the money away. We are going back down those roads. So you need to definitely be prepared for that. In addition to the appropriations in CR, they have a number of things that they still need to get done, like a farm bill. So the farm bill affects more than farmers. It has all of your USDA nutrition. It has conservation programs, any number of things like that that have to be reauthorized. It's a multi-year reauthorization bill. It needs to be reauthorized. You'll need to pay attention to that. And on the county side of things, one of the biggest points of contention for the farm bill is also in the debt ceiling bill. They put in work requirements for the SNAP program. That is now being heavily debated and could stall the farm bill. So you want to take a look at that. And they're talking about doing some significant cuts to the Inflation Reduction Act, the IRA, which has a lot of the climate action provisions in it. They want to take a lot of money out of that and put it towards other parts of the farm bill that have budget gaps. So there's going to be some debate that could also affect that. So I wanted to mention it. And so the good news, I'm actually going to end on good news. I have a lot of bad news. Y'all are looking really sad. I'll let you back up. And I don't sing, so I can't do that for you. But the good news is that the bipartisan infrastructure law, the IRA, which is again a lot of tax credits and other provisions, and federal competitive grants. So I'm going to start with BIL IRA. BIL added, as you know, $1.2 trillion over 5 years in a lot of ways of infrastructure, and particularly in things that we don't always see. It was a surface transportation bill, but it added a lot of water, energy efficiency, renewable energy, sustainability, a lot of climate action, provided in that. And many existing programs saw significant increases. A lot of folks will be familiar with the RAISE program, which was formerly Tiger and then Build and now RAISE. That got big bumps in the transportation world. So that was a 5-year bill. We're 2 years in, you get 3 more years. If you are not looking at the grants within that law, you really want to. You've still got 3 years. It's not too late, but you want to pay attention to it. And this is why. Those programs, very much like the stimulus bill in the Obama years, are temporary. They will not be renewed. There will not be another $1.2 trillion infrastructure bill. This was Biden's way of providing a stimulus bill. And so those programs will go away. You may get a program like Tiger that's so popular that it stays around several more years, but that will be the exception, not the rule. I said it was going to be good news. That didn't sound like it was good news. I'm getting to the good news. The good news is 3 more years. And the other thing is I wanted to remind you that outside of these particular programs that did some plus ups, there are hundreds of billions of dollars annually in appropriations that go to competitive grants specifically for local governments. So you definitely are not going to see, those do not go away. In good years and bad years, there's certain programs like brownfields and surface transportation programs, RAISE will be one of them. There's certain programs that aren't going to go away. They may take a little bit of a cut, maybe a haircut for a little while, but they're not going to go away. And the good news is, and I like to remind everybody too, is that all of these programs, because they're annual, they really don't change a lot between administrations. So what has been out there in a notice of funding opportunity these last few years under the Biden administration is going to be the same application next year, maybe a little tweaking, from year to year, but very, very little. Now, from administration to administration, there are changes. So, I'll give you a really fast example of this, but in the Trump years, you heard opportunity zones. And then now in the Biden years, you hear historically disadvantaged communities and justice 40 and some other key phrases. So you have to make sure that you adjust your applications for those key focus areas of any administration's priorities. But overall, the requirements by Congress stay the same. So that is the quick overview that I wanted to make sure there's not anything super important that I left off here at the end. Oh, yes, there is one final thing. we could talk about grants for hours, about project readiness and how to be not just eligible, but competitive. If I could encourage you all to please let your managers know at the North Carolina City and County Managers Association meeting on January 31st. It's in Winston-Salem. All the managers go. It's a very well attended conference. I'll actually be doing a workshop on grant readiness and competitiveness, and that's January 31st. I think it's around 3:00 in the afternoon at the City County Manager. So please encourage your managers to attend that workshop. And thank you for the extra time. I know I covered a lot, but a lot going on in Washington. Can I answer any questions before I get out of your way? Yes, sir.
Brett and Apex. There's a rail line that goes through Apex and up through Raleigh and further north that we're trying to convert into passenger rail. The maps passed today, as far as I can tell from the news, and I counted 6 congressional districts that rail line goes through. And so presumably, I think it's more than it was before, and also it'll be new people, presumably. So how can local governments take advantage of that, leverage that new people and new districts to try to get those projects to go to the top for the funding?
So start early, very early. And so as soon as you know who the likely winners are of those new districts, you want to be in the door as soon as possible to talk to them. To be perfectly honest, there was a member of Congress that got elected a few years ago who happens to be a senator now. I won't say who that was. And he still jokes about it every time I see him. He's like, you were my first meeting, but he wasn't even sworn in yet. And I was in there talking to him about some initiatives. So don't be shy about reaching out to them for educational purposes to bring them up to speed. Even before they're sworn in, they will take meetings. So I would highly recommend going in once you know you can, a lot of people won't take meetings before they win the election, but they will take a meeting oftentimes before they're sworn in. And that's the time to catch them at home and to be early and to get on their minds. So that's what I would do with the new members. The other thing I would do, and a little secret, if you ask Elena for this, she'll give it to me and we'll be able to pull this for you. Plus Bo Mills would know this anyway, and I know that a lot of communities are working through his rail initiative. But anyway, there's a lot of the staff, especially with new members, most of the staff many times come from other offices. And so knowing who those staff are and reaching out directly to those staff, not just, get your members in and educate them, but spend all the time you can with the staff, and particularly, and this is actually anything y'all are advocating for, get to know your staff in the regional offices. They report to Washington, they report to the members, and getting them on board and helping them understand your issue will make all the difference in the world. So those are just a couple of quick things off the top of my head. As we get closer, I'd be more than happy to even be on the phone with you and run through a couple of other ideas. Can I answer any other questions?
Thank you, Ms. Mazingo, for the enthusiasm you shared, good and bad.
Okay, all right. Well, thank you for having me, everybody. So are you?
All right, the next item is Comprehensive Economic Development Strategy Annual Interim Report. And this, unlike the first 2 items on the business, is one we will consider for adopting a resolution approving this report. And I will ask Lindsay Whitson to present that to us.
Yeah, hi, thank you. I'm Lindsay Whitson, the Community and Economic Development Director, and I'm here tonight to present about our Comprehensive Economic Development, so CEDS for short. We have a 5-year Strategic Economic Development Report. It's 2021 to 2026, and in those interim years, we are required to submit an annual report to EDA or the Economic Development Administration. And so with that submittal, I just asked the board tonight to approve the resolution of support for that submittal, and the draft of the report was included in your agenda packets. It's not due for another month, so we still have time to make any edits if anyone would like. But I will just give a little bit of background about what is the CEDS. So like I said, it's a regional economic blueprint that addresses multi-jurisdictional planning efforts and not siloing county or community to community. And like I said, it's a 5-year strategic report, and it's a requirement as our partnership with Economic Development Administration. And I'll also talk a little bit about the framework, just to give a little bit of background. And then the reason that we have to submit a report is our implementation efforts that have been addressed over the last federal fiscal year, which is October 1, 2022 to September 30th, 2023. So I'll just highlight a little bit of those efforts. And then also the document and just includes like what's next, what do we foresee in the horizon related to the document. And so again, what is the SEDS? It's a document that is a capacity builder for us. So it's not just about the document itself, it's about the process. And through those processes, we have been able to build internal and external capacity with our staff, but also serve roles at our local governments to help, whether it's with grant writing or brownfields or, different efforts like that they need. And then it can, like I said, it can also help strengthen local and regional communities. The document is a collaborative tool. So when we developed it, there was a lot of opportunity for stakeholder public input, and as well as, again, through the process, we encourage regional collaboration. So if we're thinking about strategic project proposals, thinking regionally if possible, multi-county projects and things like that. And I noticed that the slides are a little bit off, so I don't know, for future reference, we might want to address that. But anyways, so regional, and it's, like I said, it's a regional guide for strategic planning. And there are performance metrics in there that can be measured to help address successes. Next slide, please. And so there's these 5 components in the actual SEDS itself, which is like the economic conditions of the region. What does our region look like? And again, this was developed in 2021, so there is obviously already some differences at this point. And then a SOAR approach, strengths, opportunities, aspirations, results, which is similar to a SWOT analysis. So yeah, what are our strengths in the region? What are some of the opportunities we could expand upon? And then, like it says in the title, it's a strategic document. So there's strategies and action plans identified throughout. And then, like I said, the evaluation framework, which is, performance metrics to help measure where you're going in the region. And EDA requires an economic resiliency component. Obviously very important after what we experienced with COVID. And they've also made some updates for our next iteration, which I haven't looked at yet because we don't have to handle that exactly until 2026, but they're requiring different components now. And then these are the 5 goals: business retention, expansion, and innovation, robust infrastructure, which can include a scale of things like broadband, road infrastructure, housing, water, sewer, et cetera. Workforce development, connected and vibrant places, and then again, that economic resiliency component. And so the main reason that, again, we have to do the report is the implementation. So assessing what we did over the last year. And I'm just calling out a couple of things. Obviously, there's a lot more that we've done related to community and economic development. I didn't address some of the stuff that we were doing the previous year. Just wanted to highlight a couple either new things or projects that have started to elevate over the last federal fiscal year. So we have really started to improve and grow our home repair internal processes, which in return has allowed us to be more intentional and streamline home repair efforts throughout the region. So able to get more homeowners and their units repaired and or modified, focusing on low income, disabled, and senior households. Also, we're awarded recently a HUD-led capacity building grant. We haven't signed the contract yet, but that will allow us to establish more relationships with schools, public health departments, community-based organizations that support youth, because eventually it would be then to pursue funding for actually going in and abating the lead in the homes of, they have to have lead in it. So, be pre-1978 and have test positive for lead, and there has to be children 6 and under in the household. And so we'll start that effort up, kick that effort off soon. And then we talked a lot about grant assistance and administration. Just in the last couple of months, we were notified that we helped Durham County with a solid waste infrastructure grant. They got $3 million. Last week, we were notified that we got helped a Durham County, Orange County, Granville joint application, 1.5 million for energy efficiency home repair. And so under the energy efficiency conservation block grant. And then just today we got Cameron $54,000 for new playground equipment and murals in their downtown. So really all over one of our smallest communities up to one of our larger communities. And then I'm going to talk a little bit more about the NC Biotech Ambassador Program in the next slide. Connected Triangle Plus, Steve Rao, I know you're familiar with the Connected Triangle Plus. Are you going to the summit on November 9th?
Yeah, I'm actually speaking at the summit.
Oh, okay, perfect. So just like
I'm moderating a panel. I was gonna, for the last comments, I was gonna talk about.
Oh, okay, awesome. Sorry, I'm stealing your thunder. Yeah, so just like this unified vision around smart city in the region, and really getting multiple communities on board, and the new City of Raleigh Smart City Manager is like spearheading an MOA effort to get different jurisdictions to sign on. And then we have had a brownfields revolving loan fund, but it didn't start becoming active until this year. So developers can tap into that for gap financing if they're looking for cleanup activities with their brownfield. And then, so the Accelerate NC Ambassador Program is an effort that I just wanted to highlight because through EDA, NC Biotech received about $25 million under the Build Back Better regional challenge a year and a half ago to really strengthen the state's, they're focusing on, I think, like 79 counties, but the life sciences manufacturing sector. And so we are considered a community member or community partner. And so helping to like create the messaging and deploy the messaging around getting people into the life sciences manufacturing field, because a lot of times we think that, you have to have a PhD, you have to be a scientist, you have to be this and this, but there's a lot of entry-level positions that have opportunity for economic mobility, good family paying jobs. And so our family wage paying jobs. So our role is to help connect people to become an ambassador of that program, which then in return, they would be encouraged to connect with job seekers and give them the information that they need to recruit them into a life sciences manufacturing career, because there are multiple programs throughout our region where they even offer free education opportunities to get your foot in the door. So I just wanted to plug or highlight that project because it definitely aligns with our SEDS, which is what I'm talking about tonight anyways. And also it's just been a newer project that we've been undergoing over the past year. And then this is just more about the program details. So I would encourage anyone to reach out to myself if they were interested in learning how to become an ambassador. You do have to do a 4-hour-ish training, but it's very like hands-on. They try to have a tour involved where you might tour a manufacturing facility. And then also just like hear from stories throughout the region of how people went, they were either underemployed or possibly unemployed and worked their way up in the life sciences manufacturing sector. So this is just showing kind of what the goal is. They have 25 community support partners, us being one of them. They have 250 ambassadors as a goal, which they've already actually surpassed that number, and then hoping to connect with 2,500 plus community members. And then, so what's next? I was just highlighting the fact that like we have a new strategic framework here at CPRC, and in the community and economic development focus area, made sure that some of the goals and the performance metrics that we will track within align with the SEDS. And then continue to seek investment opportunities from local federal funding sources. Always wanted to increase like storytelling around the SEDS and highlighting successes. So hoping to figure out a beneficial way to do that. And then we do have county profiles within the report that are really helpful for individualized data to your county. Can be used for grants or really whatever you want the data for. Hoping to update those as well because they're a bit outdated at this point. And that's it. So if anyone has any questions, happy to answer them. Or if you had reviewed the document and really have some areas of concern, or I'm happy to edit them.
I know it's late, but I want to make a couple points. When I saw this on the agenda, I called the CEO of the Sanford Area Growth Alliance, and I asked him, "Are you aware of what regional council is doing in this area?" And he was familiar with the acronym, but not too much more. I'm wondering whether or not I'm thinking of talking to site consultants and things like that. I would think that you could help with that. The other question that I have, and I'm not looking for an answer, but I'm trying to put it out on the table there. The other thing is the interplay between you and the community colleges in this area that you're talking about, the education opportunities. I think biotech is big in Lee County, for example, and the possibility of being able to reinforce each other in this kind of an effort and work development kind of things. I'm not sure. I haven't asked them whether or not they're aware of what you're doing.
I mean, yeah, we have a statewide rep, Hillary Sherman, who works with EDA, and her and I actually went and met with the Central Ina folks a month and a half ago at this point. They let us tour their new facility, that ginormous facility for manufacturing that they're upfitting. So yeah, we check in with them and ask, like, what are your needs related to workforce development, workforce programming, and we're always available to help write a grant related to, for the community colleges, it would be more workforce programming related. But yeah.
So that's there. I guess the only thing that I would ask you is that, probably not take too much time tonight, but this whole idea of how you interface possibly with economic development on the county level would be curious to me. Maybe it's something that is not so obvious or not. But anyway, maybe we can talk about it later. Thank you.
Just an idea on one topic on resilience is artificial intelligence, which I've been speaking about more on radio and podcasts. But just to, I think recently I had a conversation with John Chambers, who ran Cisco. He's from my home state of West Virginia, and it was amazing hearing from John about how IBM CEO just last week or a couple weeks ago announced that IBM would eliminate 8,000 jobs in the very near future just because of AI. So I think it's going to have a real impact, in areas of the economy. And we look at resilience, we need to focus on the good news is that it's a lot like the dot-com revolution where, retail businesses and stuff went online and everyone thought all the jobs were going to be lost, but we were able to put human beings and skills where they were more valued. So I think that's important, and also startup creation. So what I found interesting of the 16 companies that Chambers has invested in his venture fund, 3 are AI companies, and they're all billion-dollar companies now. And they're hiring thousands of people. So he said everyone has to have an AI strategy, and even his advice in North Carolina was there should be more startups and more money going into AI. So just some things to think about that we could add on to the economic development plan, because I think it's
that's a good point. Anything else?
Any other questions? All right. Thank you. This item is currently on the consent agenda for us to consider. So we'll leave it there and discuss it when we get that far. So next up is discussion of the Board of Delegates and Executive Committee meeting changes and bylaw revisions. And Lee, I'm going to turn it over to you and just say this is also will be under consideration for potential action if we choose to do so. So, Lee.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. In light of the time, I'm going to do my best to really just hit some high points. This was sent to the board a couple of weeks ago because of the potential impact on the bylaws. And I'll ask maybe Elena or Beth if they can advance. I'll just do it from here. So we go to the next slide. So the bylaws need to be changed because of the name change. It's also a good opportunity to review the bylaws and think about other changes that need to be made. Sort of in tandem, we've been thinking about some restructuring around the Board of Delegate meetings and the Executive Committee meetings in light of COVID and virtual meetings. And I know you all are super busy, and us trying to keep meetings limited to 2 hours and bring the right sort of engaging topics to the board. We're proposing some changes to sort of shift where business goes. And just to remind everybody, we have talked about this with the board officers, got some really good feedback. We talked to the executive committee about this on the 27th of September. Got more really good feedback. The copy that you have of the governance changes, there are 2 documents. There's a red line version that shows you the suggestions that were made by the executive committee. And then you also have a red line version of the bylaws. So I'll just hit some highlights and I'll get through the presentation, and then I want to open it up to conversation, questions. If the board does not feel comfortable tonight taking up the bylaw changes, it's not a big deal. We can put this back on the agenda for November. Again, I know we're sort of late. I don't want you to feel pressured at all. There's nothing requiring you to do this tonight. So I want to put that out there first. So if you can go to the next slide. So quickly, highlights of the board meetings. This moves the number of full board meetings from the 9 scheduled, but just to remind you, the board always cancels July and December. So it's really 7 that the board has to 6 scheduled meetings. And we really want to emphasize in-person, interactive, and worth the trip content. So making sure when we have a board meeting that the agenda is such that you really want to be here, you need to be here. A little less emphasis sort of on day-to-day sort of business, which we would be shifting to the executive committee. I want to emphasize the board would retain all of its authority, and you could always change this. So, you know, maybe it's a pilot for a year, and if the board doesn't like it, the board can meet as much as the board wants to meet. It's your board. We're just trying to be respectful of your time. So I won't go through the dates of the meetings. They were part of that email that went to you. And then we would also talk about a subcommittee structure that would provide reports to the board during each of those meetings. Not verbal reports, but a written report. We're really trying to make sure to connect the board more effectively with the focus areas. So that's part of the strategy here. Next slide. So the executive committee would take on the responsibility for really handling more of what I call day-to-day business. We could have those virtually if the executive committee wanted to lessen your burden on travel. We could also have it hybrid or in person if you want to, but maybe to help you with travel, we could have those meetings virtually if you'd like. Again, handling routine business, budget amendments, contracts, grants. They already handle the evaluation of myself. We'd also want to make sure that whatever the executive committee does, we're giving really good feedback to the board to make sure that they're aware of the work of the executive committee, sharing the agenda, sharing the minutes, those sort of things. And again, I've talked about the purpose, really trying to shift the business because everybody's very busy and we want these meetings to be impactful. Next slide. So subcommittees, we have had committees from time to time that have focused on things like smart growth, water resources. We have an aging advisory committee, but we really have never had subcommittees that really focused in on each of the strategic focus areas of the organization. And so we're proposing to create subcommittees, also a regional policy committee, and the chairs of those committees would be board members appointed by the chair of the board of delegates. We would encourage that each board member would express interest and participate in the subcommittee. And then we would get other participation broadly from the region, from other elected officials, staff members, other subject matter experts, to really round out a nice complement of individuals in the subcommittee. The subcommittee would allow one board members and other elected officials to learn more about our organization and may be a good avenue for potential folks that may sit around this table in the future. I think it also will provide staff better connections to the board, to elected officials, and give them a better line of sight to what's going on in the region and how the work is impacting and where the work needs to go. And will allow for more in-depth conversation. It probably would be good to talk more about the climate protection reduction grant in more detail with a group of individuals on a subcommittee. We just don't have that time for the full board because we could have 6 or 7 different presentations just tonight on different things, and we'd be here to midnight and I wouldn't have a job anymore. So, so we're trying to.
Chairman either.
We have a chairman either. So we want to be very mindful of that. So that's the subcommittee idea. Next slide. Yep. So there's a governance sort of proposal, but then there's the actual changes to the bylaws, which, and again, we took this opportunity to look at the bylaws and suggest changes that we think are appropriate. The bylaws are different than the charter. So the charter is the creation foundational document that was approved by the local government several months ago. The bylaws really direct how this body works, how we do some internal business. It can be approved or changed by this board. So quickly, very high level, changes all the references from Triangle J to Central Pines. It actually takes out specific meeting dates. The bylaws actually had specific meeting dates and says rather that the board will set a meeting schedule in October for the following year. That way, if you don't want to meet the 4th Wednesday and you have a little more freedom than a bylaws change to change your meetings. Clarifies the quorum. It wasn't real clear that if there was a vacancy of the delegate and the alternate of a member government, whether that counted against quorum or not. It clarifies that if you have a complete vacancy, it does not count against quorum. There was a provision that the executive director could be called president. I have no interest in that. I suggested striking that. I don't think that makes a lot of sense. Clarifies that the director prepares the recommended budget, removes the director as the secretary to the board, and clarifies that the director designates a clerk. So that's a little different than how you operate in a local government. Beth has a lot of other duties other than clerk. We don't have a clerk that you appoint. I designate and then I undesignate and designate somebody else. That won't happen with Beth because she's doing a great job. That's how we do it. Most COGs do that. Remove section 5, it's in the charter. It changes the member assessment to the current amount and strikes the 1986 reference to member assessments that I don't believe was really ever followed and is just really not relevant based on how we budget. Next slide. That's it. So those are the changes. I'm happy to answer questions. I'm happy to be quiet if the board wants to talk about it. Here to help in whatever way I can. Thank you for the time.
The executive committee met in September. We put a real fine tooth on this and made a few changes that made sense. As Lee said, if the schedule does not work out a year from now, we can look at the schedule of meetings and redefine it, but it gives some clarity of our organization. Obviously, changing the name of our organization, going from, we're the only last letter of the alphabet for our COGs across the state. All of them reflect some part of the geography of the part of the state they're from. But I mean, Kathleen and I and Commissioner from Lee County, and then we had other people on the telephone or through Web Connect. So I think this is a very good document.
I would echo Mayor Raines. And really grateful for the work that's been put in. I think it's very, very useful. I'm excited about the subcommittees overdue. And I really think that's going to be a real benefit to our region and engagement.
I'd recommend we move ahead with the resolution tonight because of the things that have been said. And certainly if something was to come up, the change could be made in the future, but it gets it off your agenda and allows us to move on.
I just have a question, clarifying question. The first few items, potential board meeting changes, subcommittee, those types of things, they're not bylaw changes. They're just some type of proposed process changes.
Yes, ma'am. That's like a document just sort of proposing how we would change it.
But we're not voting on that per se.
I think what you're doing is I'm hearing endorsement around that. Yes, ma'am.
It's just like policies and procedures kind of document.
And we'll begin the implementation of it.
And then the bylaws part, we'd actually.
In the bylaws, yes, ma'am. And the only other thing, if the board wishes to move forward, we did send out 2 schedules of meetings for 2024. And if the board is amenable to the new schedule, I would ask that the motion include adoption of the 2024 Board of Delegate Executive Committee schedule so that you can adhere to that new change of the bylaw, which would implement what Ms. Evans was talking about in terms of at least the cadence of the meetings.
I'm glad to move to approve the bylaws and the 2024 schedule as presented. I'll get it out one way or another.
Kathleen, are you okay with that being on the consent agenda?
Rock and roll.
I'm gonna go
That
through 2 roll
saves-
calls if I don't have to.
That saves me even more embarrassment.
Is there anyone online who has any questions or comments?
I'm delighted with the changes. Go for it. Let's go.
All right. All right, then that will be on the consent agenda, which is up next.
Thank you.
All right, we do have 3 items for consideration. They are the draft minutes of the August 23rd, 2023 meeting, adoption of resolution number 2023-10-01, SEDS annual interim report, and then the adoption of resolution 2023-10-02, revised bylaws and meeting schedule. Is that okay? And is there someone willing to make a motion on that?
I will make that motion, and this one will stick. I move to accept the consent agenda.
State your name.
This is Kathleen Ferguson, Hillsborough.
Second, Pamela Baldwin, Town of Pittsburgh.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Elena, will you do the roll call vote, please?
And as a reminder for this vote, only 1 vote per community. Aberdeen.
William aye.
Thank you. Anger.
Anger, aye.
Thank you. Apex.
Apex, aye.
Thank you. Archer Lodge. Benson. Broadway.
Broadway vote yes.
Thank you. Cameron.
I'm sorry, are you going to bring that up?
Harborough.
You're muted.
Yes, I see that. Aye, absolutely.
Thank you. Carthage. Harry.
Harry, Jennifer Robinson, aye.
Thank you. Chapel Hill. Chatham County. Clayton. City of Durham. Durham County.
Heidi Carter, aye.
Thank you. Fuquay Varina. Garner.
Ken Marshman, I vote aye.
Goldston. Hillsborough.
Kathleen Ferguson, Hillsborough, aye.
Holly Springs.
Tim Forrest, Holly Springs, aye.
Thank you. Johnson County.
Butch Lauder, Johnston County, aye.
Kenley. Nightdale. Lee County.
Bill Carver, Lee County, aye.
Micro.
Katie Garcia from Micro, aye.
Thank you. Moore County. Morrisville.
Aye.
Orange County.
Orange County, Jean Hamilton, aye.
Pine Level. Pinehurst. Pittsboro.
Pittsboro, Town of Pittsboro, Pamela Baldwin, aye.
Princeton.
Don Rains, Town of Princeton, aye.
Raleigh. Robbins. Goldsville. Sanford.
Rebecca Salmon, City of Sanford, aye.
Thank you. Selma. Siler City.
Bill Haggis, Siler City votes aye.
Thank you. Smithfield. Southern Pines. Bass. Wake County.
Susan Evans, Wake County, aye.
Wake Forest. Wendell. Whispering Pines.
Whispering Pines, Linda Vandercook, aye.
Thank you. Wilson's Mills. And Zebulon. We have a unanimous vote.
All right, thank you. And moving on, we have no items from the consent agenda to discuss, no public hearings. I'll turn it over to Lee for a brief executive director report.
I do have three things. I will be as brief as I can. So as a reminder to the board, the November meeting is moved up a week because of Thanksgiving. So that's November 15th. That is a scheduled full board meeting. It's a quick turnaround. I realize there are times when we have some difficulty with quorum. So Beth and I will work to gauge where we are. And if we don't feel like we're gonna have enough, we'll talk to the chair and make a call. We know there's some other, I know Campo, I think, is a conflict and some other things. We'll do the best we can. There is some business we'd like to try to get dealt with in November. So we may have to shift and think about executive committee if the full board is not looking like it can meet quorum. So just as an FYI.
Yeah. Our Campo meeting's at 4, and sometimes it can be relatively quick,
yeah,
and sometimes it's not.
Butch is chairing it, so you need.
I'm vice chair on that, so we'll try to move that one along quickly.
Chair coming in. So, yeah, okay. So
I can walk out of that one. So
that's right. One thing I did want to mention in terms of technical assistance that I am concerned about is we are getting quite a few requests from local governments around finance, and we're struggling to figure out how to fill that capacity. So we've been talking with Hope, our chief finance officer, Elena. The whole team's been talking about what we can do around that. Right now, we're helping 3 communities with financial assistance, and there's at least 4 or 5 that have either asked for help. I believe they're going to be asking for help soon. So we're trying. Just know we've put out an all call for anybody that might be interested in staffing or finance work. We're talking to some temporary agencies to see if some partnerships may be able to be launched. And we've got a few other ideas, but it's It's concerning around the finance side, the number of folks that are leaving or some of the gaps that are there, and just know we're doing the best we can to try to fill those. But please don't, if you have a need, don't feel discouraged in reaching out. That'll give us more information to try to figure out some potential solutions. Last thing I wanted to say, welcome to the new space. I know some folks have already seen it. We're really excited about it. Staff's done just a tremendous job moving and getting it ready, and we're not done yet. We've got another little section that's still under construction, but it's a nice place to work, and I've heard that from staff several times, how they enjoy coming into the office. The technology works. We don't have cords all over the floor. I've said a lot of times, it's the type of space that our staff deserves. And we've already hosted a department head retreat for the town of Morrisville. Brandon was here with his department heads, used the space for a retreat, and he enjoyed it. I had another question from a local government if they could use it. And so this space is yours as much as it is ours. And Mr. Chairman was working in an office for a couple hours before the meeting. And so, yeah, feel free to stop by and if you need to use it.
How many people can the room fit? Is this, I mean, this?
So this will actually be the next to the largest room. This will fit 40. And I'll be happy to give anybody a quick tour afterwards if you want. The space we're renovating, we'll be able to get 94 classroom style.
When will that be done?
That one we are hoping will be done December 4th for a statewide training we're hosting.
So the screen is really nice. If you had a presenter from outside, they could present here.
Oh, absolutely.
And you could have a moderated panel.
Yes. Yeah, and the big room will actually have 5 screens and will work just like this room works. So we were very mindful about hybrid being a new way of, not new anymore, but the way of meeting. So I hope it's working okay for folks virtually. I think it was. People can actually hear. There's 2 microphones and a lot of speakers in the ceiling. So, Mr. Raines, do you have a question, sir?
When we were lauding the General Assembly, we were bidding for the COG Association $1 million for financial assistance.
Yes, sir.
Was that in the state budget?
It was not. We did some lobbying to try to get the state to fund 2 positions in each COG, and what we were told is unfortunately it got caught up in the gamesmanship between the House and the Senate, and while lots of support, nobody was willing to sort of pick it up in the budget negotiation, and the state budget this year was done very differently.
Maybe we should have had a casino here.
Yeah, that's ways of creative financing. So thank you, Mr. Chair. That's all I have.
I just meant that might
All right.
have gotten us attention.
So I don't have a very elaborate chairman's report, but in the interest of time, I'll cut that down to my 1.5 minutes. Just a reminder, I think some counties and towns are already doing this, but Project Greenlight to honor our veterans, I think since Mr. Wilson was here tonight, that would be something just we could all do. I don't know if you're not already doing it or not, but I know in Johnston County we are. But just consider that for your town or your county to participate in that. So that is it, and that will bring us to around the region. And I will ask that you be brief, but I will start and go this way.
Okay, pressure's on to be brief. Well, in Garner, we are starting to certainly implement the budget that was passed timely in June, and starting to work on some projects from our bond issue that was passed previously. We are finding, however, that road building is terribly expensive, and at least one project that we had is, I think, almost doubled in cost, or maybe more than that. So we may have to reconfigure some things there. We've got a couple of things that Campo can help us with, I believe. But otherwise, I don't think our town is is waiting for the outcomes of the election. As everybody knows, we'll have a new mayor there. He's already decided since he's the only one. There is a contested seat in the council, so that election seems to be going smoothly, or will be going smoothly, I guess. That's all I have.
All right. Thank you. So,
We got a new manager, Brandon Zuma. We're really excited about that. And I'm just going to reserve my remarks to talk about the Smart Cities Conference. So we have a Connected Triangle Plus Conference on November 9th at the Raleigh Convention Center from 8 to 5. It's really going to be talking about smart cities. We've had a lot of success in Morrisville with Internet of Things and using technology and sensors so we can get visibility into our facility usage when parks are being flooded, using on-demand transit with apps and algorithms. Pretty exciting. So, so I think I'm just encouraging all the local governments to come. I'm going to send Alina an email to pass out. I'll be moderating a panel on regional collaboration, so it should be good. And it sounds really sophisticated, but it's really not. Our staff's done a really good job, and Morrisville's won a couple of national awards in Denver for our work in smart cities. So November 9th, and happy Diwali to everyone. It's an Indian festival of lights, and it means light over darkness. So giving you greetings will bring you blessings. It's next month. Thank you.
Well, last time I was sharing about we had adopted our comprehensive sustainability plan, and we've won statewide awards for it. So we were really proud of that. Kicking in, we just graduated the largest class we've had for Government 101 the Citizens Academy. We've had that for a decade plus, but it was the largest class, and at the same time, we've got a traditionally, historically underserved community, Fairview, and they've had an internship program that was organically developed within the community, and this year their cohort from graduation created a video of the highlights, and we were able to present that for the community. So I'm just so proud of these group of young folks. They put together a community action plan and shared that with the town. The town took parts of that into consideration as part of our comprehensive sustainability plan. Got our last Fridays coming up, and Art Walk. So, and we have, after our uproar where we had the 60 public art installations, the town of Hillsborough did invest in one of those artworks, and it's a pair of giraffes at Town Hall. So we're really pleased with that. So
I'm going to pass.
all right.
The key word in Princeton is infrastructure. We're working on a new waste treatment plant or connectivity with the county. Finally got all the permits, working on the easements for water, for flood mitigation and drainage and new community center. And God willing, I'll see you again.
Gene?
Yeah, so this is my first time here, so I am really happy to be here and have already learned a lot. I think for Orange County, it seems to be a season of initiatives. So for the first time, we have a strategic plan process we're in the middle of. We mentioned the climate action plan to be near the end. We're starting on our 2-year land use plan. Not going to call it the comprehensive plan anymore. It's going to call it land use plan 2050. We just had a consultant finishing up on capital needs for our public school plan. So our residents have had more surveys asked to do in a short period of time. But it's exciting. Hopefully all this will come together. So when budget season starts, we can have, we can prioritize and, balance, yeah.
Well,
We have so much going on in Wake County. I wouldn't even know where to begin, but I'll just mention one thing, and I know all of you are not in Wake County, but you can spread the word through a program that we have where we allocate community capital dollars. We have a fund, and then we're opening up applications right now for $6 million for nonprofits that need capital expansions. And the applications are open now through December 14th. If anybody knows any group that would like to know more about that, it's a competitive process. We look for different organizations that are doing things that tie in with our strategic goals, but just a way that we try to be a helpful partner to the partners in our community that are doing good things for our residents. So.
All right, anyone online? I don't know, Lynn, can you go to kind of read off the list and we'll go that way?
Yeah, would you like me to go name by name? Jennifer Robinson, I see your name pop up first.
Oh. Hey, everybody. The big news in Cary is that we are opening a very signature park for our town in the heart of our downtown that will be opening on November 19th. And we welcome you to come and see our new park and bring your family, grab ice cream or a meal while you're in town. We'd love to have you. Thank you.
I will want to say on that, Jennifer, I had a chance today. We had a workshop with your mayor and town manager and got a sneak peek, and that is a fabulous downtown park. Kudos for that. It is wonderful.
Thank you for saying that. We're really excited about it.
Deidreana Freeman. She may not be here.
Just trying to come off mute to say that there'll be a new mayor in Durham and it will not be me.
We have a gift for you anyway, so we have something for you anyway, so we'll find you.
Randy O'Donnell, I see your hand up.
Yeah, I just wanted to share a few things. In Carborough, next summer, our 203 library will be opening up, and I know Jean's here, and it's in partnership with Orange County. So it's an Orange County branch library in Carborough. We have a very active and engaged race equity commission that has been extending outreach to community. And so I don't know if any other communities are interested in knowing how to get a race equity commission launched, but we've been well at work at doing it, and our folks would be more than happy to help mentor. We have with our climate action team, and as you all know, we have a climate action plan that's been in process several years. The last year, we've engaged in a green neighborhood initiative, giving grants to neighborhood initiatives they're doing a wonderful job, and they're getting ready to present to our climate action team. I want to thank the Central Pines Triangle J for Solarize the Triangle. It was very successful in Carborough. I am one of the solar homes now as a result of the work. So thank you. That's been excellent. Let's keep it up. Carborough has, we're in the implementation phase of a comprehensive plan that is going to extend out to 2040. So we're very excited about that. And yeah, Carborough will have a new mayor, new manager, new clerk. It's going to be Carborough 2.0. So thank you for all your assistance in your work, and I'm very excited about the strategic plans that are unfolding.
Katie Garcia.
Oh, hi. Yeah, I don't really have any news for micro in particular, but I did have the pleasure of getting invited to the Johnston County Arts Council's meeting the other night. They're celebrating 50 years of creativity with a published book, Johnston County Creates, and I believe it's available on Amazon, and it's full of local artists and creators and little bios and examples of their work. And they're just doing really wonderful things around the county as a whole. And I would just love to spotlight them to all of you and check it out.
Awesome, thank you. Linda Vandercook, anything you'd like to share from Whispering Pines? The last two names I see are Tim Forrest from Holly Springs. Anything you'd like to share?
Yeah, good evening. Tim Forrest, Holly Springs. Yes, this Saturday is Holly Fest here in Holly Springs, one of our biggest events of the year. Highly recommend if you have the time, stop by. Last year, we clocked in over 15,000 visitors. It is free. It is available for you just to walk in and hang out. There's a beer garden. There's rides for the kids. There's a lot of displays and shows. And we welcome everybody to come attend. Please feel free to stop by.
I see people writing that down. Wilma Laney from Aberdeen.
Hi. Yes, on Monday night at our town hall meeting, we approved a partnership with Habitat for Humanity for federal funding for self-help opportunity. It's a self-help opportunity program. And it's for Port of Sand Hill Station. It's Habitat has approximately 103 acres. And the Habitat, I don't know if you know, but they got a big grant. Habitat for Humanity got a big grant from Jeff Bezos. I think it was his former wife. And so we were able to, the Habitat for Humanity was able to get money, and they have the 103 acres. We have that in Aberdeen. And so I'm really excited about it because I'm one person that's really like to see affordable housing. And it's going to be an area where it's going to be different income brackets. You know, it's going to stretch from, I think Habitat needs to go from 60 to 80% of the amount of money that, you know, you make. But this is going to be a variety of homes. So I'm really excited about that.
That's everyone online.
All right, I did have a quick thing for Johnston County. One of the things we started last year has been termed the Johnston County Commissioner's Promise, where we offered free tuition for any high school student that graduates from a public school in Johnston County. And so that has been very successful. I think so far this year we have 700 students who have participated in that program and are going tuition free. And it's been really interesting to see the testimonials of students who did not think they were going to be students that are now going to the community college to do something that they didn't think was possible. So that's a success story in Johnston County. So I'm glad to be a part of that. And with that, I don't think there's anyone else left for around the region. I don't have any other business, so I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
We have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Let's go home then. Thank you.
Time to leave.
Hey, 8:03, not too bad, yeah.